Hello there, and thanks for joining me. I'm digital artist Aaron Rutten, and in this video, I'm going to share my thoughts on cheap design websites such as FIVERR, design web contests, and $99 logos. First of all, let me say that the notion of cheap designs gives clients a very unrealistic and unfair perception of the value of designers and artists. For example, the website FIVERR lets people offer their services for just $5. And so people go on there with the expectation of a logo costing $5 or website design costing $5. Everything is $5. Well, a cheeseburger is $5 and a cup of coffee is $5, but a logo should not be $5. And a person designing a logo should make more than $5 for their efforts. Now, it is up to the person offering their services on FIVERR to limit their services to something that's within $5, and if they want to be able to upsell and have multiple tiers that build upon that to charge more and more for additional services, they can absolutely do that. But again, I think the problem lies with the notion that designs and creative work is something that should be cheap, when in my opinion, I think it's something that should be determined by the artist, not by a website that's trying to make money off of the industry and take advantage of the fact that there's a lot of cheapskate clients out there who want to be paid in full for their time, but don't want to pay artists and designers a fair rate for their time. So I have to be fair and play devil's advocate here and say that there probably are a lot of people who live in a country where $5 is a pretty decent wage for doing some work. And so it makes sense to get a lot of work off of FIVERR. And in that context, I don't know that it's really necessarily unfair, but it does really kind of make it difficult for people like me who need much more than $5 per project to be able to get by, to have to compete with people who can afford to charge $5. Now, every artist, regardless of what country they're in, deserves a fair chance at making a living as an artist, so I don't really know who's to say what's right and what's wrong in that regard. FIVERR is what it is. You can take it, you can leave it. I'm personally not going to use it because it's hard for me to come up with something that I would actually do for $5. You know, what would that be? Answer a short question, do a really quick sketch, give an estimate. You know, I don't know. There's not really much that I would do for $5. So that's FIVERR in a nutshell. I kind of have mixed feelings about it. But let's move on to cheap logo design websites. And these cheap logo design websites kind of get intermingled with design contests. So let's talk a little bit first about what a design contest is. A design contest is basically a website that lets clients request something like a logo design, for instance. They put out their request, they explain what they want, and then it's a contest in the sense that, let's say, 10 or 20 or 30 different designers around the world compete to get that job. And by competing, what they have to do is they have to submit either a draft or a completed logo design. And then the client looks at all of those examples, and if there's one they like, they choose the one that they like the best. And then the money for that project goes to the artist that created that design. However, all of the other artists who created a design who didn't get picked get nothing for their time. And so for me personally, I don't think that's fair. I think if you're showing somebody something, even if it's something that they don't want, you're still helping them come to a decision about what they do want, and you should get paid for your time. Again, these people want to get paid in full for their time, for their business and their efforts, so doesn't it make sense that they should pay somebody for their time if they're helping them with their business? So most of these cheap design websites have that design contest model, but they also market this $99 logo or cheap logo design kind of model. And to me, again, that kind of ties in with the FIVERR where, you know, it doesn't matter how complex the logo is or how much time goes into it. $99 doesn't matter what the logo is. It doesn't matter who you are. $99. And that really does not make sense because a logo design is something that should be created through a back and forth process between you and the client. And it should take multiple revisions, and it should take you as the designer getting to know the client and the client's goals and the client's business and the client's branding. It isn't just something where you say, hey, this is Joe's hamburger stand, make me a logo, and then the artist sends you a picture of a hamburger that they got off of a vector website or something, and there's your logo. And then all of a sudden, Joe and Bob and Bill and Kim, they all have the same logo for their hamburger stand. Why is that? Well, that's because they got their logo off a cheap $99 logo design website, and the artist who's creating these logos doesn't care. They're not going to put in any effort because they just want to get it done as quickly as possible so they maximize their profits for that $99. So I think that these cheap $99 logo websites and design contests are severely undermining the design industry by devaluing artists and talent. As an artist and a designer who's gone through a lot of hassle with problematic clients who have unrealistic expectations, I'm very against these websites and the notion that design should be cheap. You should decide what you want as the artist, and the client should respect that. And if you're an artist who wants to do work for $5, That's fine, that's your prerogative. But for me personally, I want to be valued for my talent, and I want to be able to decide what I charge. And I don't really have a problem with that. There's lots of people who are willing to pay me whatever I ask for my time. So if you are an artist or a designer who's being tempted by these cheap design websites, and you feel like the only way that you're going to get your work out there or make money is to sell yourself short and only make $5 for a logo, or only do design contests where you may or may not get chosen, don't go that route. Value yourself, and clients will value you as well. And that's where you have to start. Otherwise, if you sell yourself short, people are always going to view you as being the cheap designer, and they're never going to want to pay you more, and you're never going to be able to grow. And the kind of clients that you're going to attract are always going to be cheapskates. And cheapskates are not people who value your time, and they're not going to value you as a designer in lots of other ways as well. So gravitate more towards the clients who value your time and respect you, and stay away from those clients who want to devalue you and tell you you're only worth $5. Because again, a cheeseburger is $5, a cup of coffee is $5, and your work is worth much more than that. If you found this information helpful, take a quick second to like this video. And if you're new to my channel, I'd love to have you subscribe. I have a lot more art and design advice like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.